Shalom, this is Rabbi Sachs. Welcome to the Chai Academy, and welcome to the Chai Center. We are in the midst of a course on the Holocaust, and each class, once again, is self-contained. Even if you haven't heard yesterday's class, today's class is going to be different topic, and if there is overlap, we'll explain. These classes can be seen at thechaicenter.com/academy, or you can go to youtube.com and put in Chai Academy. So the course we're dissecting now, topic we're dissecting now is the Holocaust. So yesterday we spoke about the Allies, the indifference of the Allies to the Jewish plight. We've discussed Hitler's rise to power, and today we're going to another. I guess yesterday I said this is a dreadful topic. Today would be another dreadful topic, I think on many levels. But as we said yesterday, the Holocaust did not begin with crematoriums and gas chambers. Right? It really began with after Kristallnacht, sending people to camps, arresting Jews, etc. But the killing of the Jews in a concentration camp via via gas, it was it didn't happen right away. So the beginning of the Holocaust. When I say the Holocaust now, I am talking about mass termination, mass murder of Jews. So it began in June of 1941. Right? So when Germany had this peace agreement, the peace pact with Russia. So they went and then they came into Russia, and the part of the peace pact was that to get at Jews. So the people that were in charge, the Nazis that were in charge of killing Jews in Russia. When I say Russia, I mean the former Soviet Union. Was the Einsatzgruppen, and you can look them up. Einsatzgruppen. They had A, B, C, and D. So this Einsatzgruppen, they basically what they did is when they went into Russia, the Nazis, they also went into Russia, and they were responsible to round up Russian Jews and dispose of them. Now, Russian Jews were very vulnerable, and they were completely in the dark, because 1939 to 1941. They had this peace pact, as we said, and it's between Stalin and Hitler, and basically Stalin did everything in his power initially to protect Hitler. One of the things he did was he did not permit the newspapers to broadcast what exactly was going on with anti-Semitism that other Jews in Western Europe knew. It was completely censored. So the Russian Jews, they didn't have cell phones, they didn't have fax machines, they didn't have Google, Instagram, etc., and they didn't even have newspapers. And the newspapers they did have were completely censored. So when the Einsatzgruppen, and these group of Nazis, when they arrived in Russia, the way their MO was as follows. They put up signs that all Jews of this town, of this city, etc., have to come to a certain place, the crossroads at the crossroads of these two streets, and you have to present yourself, and if you don't, it's punishable by death. And it writes, this is not to harm anyone. This is strictly to we are moving things around, and we are sending Jews to different parts of the country. And the Jews, they said, we're going to have to move. But we are wondering, Jews, And so they showed up en masse. The order to do so, they showed up en masse. Once they showed up, and they came to this designated spot, it was only then they realized they were trapped. Part of it was they had to come with their suitcases. They had to take everything except for the house. Suitcases, your clothes, your jewelry, etc., your wealth, and then they were completely trapped. And they realized it. They realized that because they had all of a sudden surrounding them were these Nazis with Tommy rifles. They were forced, for the most part, this is the way it went, is they were forced to dig graves. Maybe it wasn't right there where they met. They had to walk a couple of miles, but they were forced to dig graves, and then they were shot. Sometimes they were shot and fell into the grave, into the ditch. Other times, as we'll hear, they actually had to lie in the ditch, and this is all based on eyewitnesses. They had to lie in the ditch, and they were shot as they were lying in the ditch. This is the job of the Einsatzgruppen, and that was their job, to kill Jews in Russia. And they came up with a plan. Now, there were 24 leaders, and this is a very interesting point. They weren't simple thugs. The 24 leaders who were tried of this Einsatzgruppen, 9 of them were attorneys. You had an architect there. You had a professor. You had a dentist. You had a banker. You had a member of the clergy. Right? They were the brainchild in how to kill Jews efficiently. Right? So what a horrible thing. So these people weren't just thugs, skinheads with the low IQ, and no, they were educated people, and they thought about this. It wasn't just emotional, right? They thought how to systematically kill Jews, and how to do it that they ensured the Jews will show. So yes, we are sending you to other towns, other villages. We are consolidating. Now, the Nazis, when they went into the Soviet Union, they were assisted. They were assisted by the Russians and by the Ukrainians, gladly, eager to help the Einsatzgruppen kill the Jews. And now, if you think about Ukraine, so Ukraine had no love for Jews going back to the Khmelnytsky killings in 1648. So in 1648 and 1649, they traveled from town to town and butchered Jews. So the Ukrainians were never, they say who was worse, the Ukrainians or the Polish or the Germans, and it's a tough contest. So the Ukrainians, they were quite eager. There's actually a funny tale. When Ed Koch was mayor of New York City, he was invited to be the Grand Marshal of Ukraine, Grand Marshal of the Ukrainian March, rally. So you have the Israel Day Parade, so they had a Ukrainian Day Parade, and he was invited to be the marshal. And walked down smiling, how am I doing? So he told the leaders, he told the Ukrainians, he goes, wow, it's incredible, look how far we've come. Here I am, I'm walking down with a ribbon on my chest, when in actual Ukraine, I would have been running down the street away from gunfire. So there's one particular episode early on in the Holocaust, in the killings, and this took place in Kiev. So Kiev is the capital of the Ukraine. Kiev is a cosmopolitan city. Kiev is a it's a huge city for that matter. I think the airport is Borispol, and from there, I've been there. I've toured Jewish Ukraine. So close to Kiev is a place called Babi Yar, and Babi Yar is basically I think Yar means a raven. It was a ravine. It was a you know, and I've been there, and it is a ravine. So it's 20 meters deep, something like that. And so they did the same MO. They sent out messages. All Jews have to gather near the Kiev, the Jewish cemetery in Kiev, and from there they marched them to Babi Yar. Now, the pretense why the Einsatzgruppen decided that we have to do this now is because the secret Soviet police who were fighting against the Nazis, they planted explosives in Kiev, and they killed German officers. They killed like the rear. So the Einsatzgruppen said, in retaliation for you doing that, we're going to kill you Jews, which is obviously insane. I mean, because the Soviet police did that, we're going to kill the Jews. So it was the end of September, and it was 1941. It was Erev Rosh Hashanah. They got the Jews. They gathered the Jews at the and bring your belongings, bring your wealth, etc. And whoever doesn't come risks death. That was another part of the mental abuse, and they met at the ancient cemetery. They walk a couple of miles to Babi Yar. Rosh Hashanah, 1941. Over both days of Rosh Hashanah, 33,700 Jews were killed by Nazi bullets. Very, very few survivors. Those that survived were either wounded because they were shot. They just didn't meet their demise. And anyway, so they talk about the Babi Yar eyewitnesses, is that they killed, and then they put a layer of earth. They killed, put a layer of earth, and they say that the blood, Jewish blood, was spurting up. There was so much blood that was actually spurting above the earth, from the ground. It was horrific. It was horrific. And the way in Babi Yar specifically is they didn't line them up at the edge of the ravine and shoot them. They actually made them go down into the ravine, lay on top. This is why I tell you it's such a terrible thing. Lay on top of other bodies, and they were shot from there. They were shot where they lay. And the eyewitness account, it says, you saw people of all ages. You see a family of children, married, adult children standing with their parents and standing with their spouses, carrying babies, and all together. And there was a grandma holding a baby, and the baby was cooing, and the grandma was playing with the baby, knowing this is it. So they made them go down into the ravine and lay on top, and they were gunned down. And they were gunned down. What's interesting is the gas chambers and the concentration camps was an outgrowth of Babi Yar. Babi Yar, they say that the Tommy guns, the Tommy rifles, there was they so many bullets. The Nazis said, we can't afford 33,700 bullets, and besides, the blisters on the Nazis' fingers, because the trigger got so hot and it burnt their hands. He says there's got to be a better way, and that's when they came up with the gas chambers and concentration camps. The graduates, the college graduates, came up with that. So After the tail end of the war, the Nazis wanted to hide what they did. And by the way, for a long time, they held the world record of 33,700 killed over 2 days in a certain area. There was eventually, by Odessa, I believe Odessa hit 50,000, a couple of years later. But the Nazis needed to hide what they did. So the tail end of the war, they got survivors from a concentration camp, from a death camp, Jewish survivors, and they made them come and dig up and made them drive these trucks that picked up the bodies and moved them into more of a central location. They poured gas and they burnt them, and then they took away the ashes, and then to make sure there's no witnesses, they killed the concentration people who did this. So they tried to hide it, but obviously they couldn't hide it well enough, because they were in fact survivors. A major insult to injury. By the way, in Babi Yar was yes, 33,700 Jews. They also killed Soviets there. They also killed gypsies there. This is, they were famous, and they killed the mentally ill. They killed there. So Babi Yar, while it was majority of Jews, it was not exclusively Jews, and this led to such an insult to the Jewish people. First of all, there was no monument. No monument was put up at a place where, when all said and done, so the 33,700 Jews was just those days, but hundreds of thousands of Jews, and there was no monument. And they actually, at the end of the war, they drafted a text for the monument. This is where Hitler gathered up Jews and others and etc. And it was changed. They didn't end up putting one up, but it was changed to Hitler gathered people and killed them here on this spot. They wouldn't even mention that there were Jews killed here. And it wasn't till much later. I think in 1974, they put up a monument, a general monument, that this is where people were killed, but it doesn't say specifically that it was Jews. And only think about this: in 2006 is when they finally put up a monument to the Jews. And it's a menorah with steps going up in the menorah. They have, by the way, a cross monument. They had a children's monument. They had a general monument, and different ends of the ravine, because it was huge. I've been there. It's huge. By the way, the ravine, at the bottom of the ravine, is now a dog park. There's monkey bars. This is where hundreds of thousands of Jews were killed. Granted, they were burnt and they were moved. So it's not really a burial place, but that's what it is now. It's a park. It's exactly what it is. It's a park. So in 2006, they had a monument to the Jews, which was, by the way, it was what's the word? The thugs came and and they spray painted, and they ruined a couple of the steps. They just can't help themselves. While after the war, and while Soviet Union controlled, the communists controlled Kiev with an iron fist, every year on Rosh Hashanah, Jews came as a memorial, commemoration, to those that were killed, the Jews that were killed at Babi Yar. So every single year, they were dispersed. You're not allowed to assemble without a permit. Other times they were arrested. Jews can't congregate, and they were arrested, right? Which is, by the way, it was very common to arrest people in a sense. They didn't like it. So you assemble there, they're arrested. So the lightest thing they did was disperse you. And they would not even give that little bit of consolation. The Einsatzgruppen, the people that were in charge, just an interesting trivia, is there were 6 million Jews killed, right? 6 million Jews. The Einsatzgruppen, which was led by 24 people, right, were responsible for 1.5 million of those killed. And some of these Einsatzgruppen, some of these leaders, yeah, they were found guilty. One of them, Boland, I think his name was, Boland, or Rash. There was Boland or Rash, if I remember. Rash, at the trial, it was suspended because Rash got ill. I mean, they didn't even find him guilty because the trial was suspended. Boland, I believe, they did find guilty. It is so. Anyway, you go to Babi Yar today. You go to Babi Yar. So I went to Babi Yar, and once again, it's a park. There's a nice, there's a couple of government buildings, and you walk through a nice tree-lined, pathway, and then you get to the ravine, and there's people walking their dogs, and there's people, and you go down the ravine, but on top of the ravine is where all around it there's different monuments. And the monument, the monument, the menorah, I remember, it had a phrase there which is taken straight from the Bible. When Cain killed Abel, so God met Cain, and it says, "Koil demei achicha," the voice of your brother, of the blood of your brother, is crying out from the ground. So that's what that was the type of slogan they put there. It was the most painful visit. You just looked in disbelief, right? How this is a park where the Ukrainians go for respite and go for exercise. It is just unbelievable to me. It's inconceivable. Now, it's a huge plot of land. It's a park, right? But a simple monument, a menorah, is not enough. Just not enough. You can Google, by the way, Einsatzgruppen. I think they have a decent amount of information, and so the question is, I just had a question: is it in Ukraine? Is it now illegal to say they had a Holocaust? No, it's not illegal. So the Ukrainians are, once the Soviet Union fell apart, there is the Ukraine has a huge Jewish infrastructure, huge. Right, I went to a synagogue in Ukraine, and it's huge. I mean, this thing has to be 50,000 square feet, right? And they serve breakfast, dinner, and lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they have they have a soup kitchen. It's just unbelievable. But it was Ukraine in particular was just a very bad place. Obviously Poland had more, I believe. I think 3 million itself were killed in Poland, but Ukraine was bad, and that was early on. Russia, Ukraine, they really did a number. So that's a little bit on Babi Yar, and very troubling how intellectual human beings could stoop so low, and such idiocy. May history never ever repeat itself.